You're listening to the Anxious Scholar Podcast, a podcast for anxious scholars. If you're a high school student who can't wait to go to university, but also is kind of overwhelmed with lots of unanswered questions like me, then you've definitely come to the right place. On this podcast, I sit down with EGM alumni while they share valuable advice from this exciting journey of theirs that we have yet to take. I really hope you'll enjoy this episode and learn lots of useful information about the college application process, unis, and higher education in general.
My name is Victoria, and I'm here today with my guest Anouk. Anouk graduated from EGM in 2022 and got accepted into Prépa Henri IV. So she'll be able to tell us all about her experience from her admission process to her time in Prépa. Thank you, Anouk, for coming. It's great to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
So to begin with, could you tell a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here and happy you're doing this for EGM.
My name is Alexandra. Like you said, I was at EJM. I graduated last year in 2022. I did all of my schooling at EJM, so I arrived at Suffren in 2008. I did the OIB bac. My specialties were AGGSP, maths, and I did SVT in première that I dropped as well. And I did Chinese and German. And I had two older brothers who were at EJM as well, who graduated a while ago.
My name is Maewenn, and I've been in UCL since I was in moyenne section, so I'm kind of like an old student from there. My parents were both French, but I spoke English at home with my dad because he was from UCL too.
Oh, as you said, I'm from UCL. I've been there my whole life basically, and so I'm half French, half Japanese. My mom is Japanese and my dad is French. I did 2 years of Prépa, now in HEC, and loving it.
Well, my name is Alexandre Philippe Vezan. I'm at EJM since 6th grade. I did my primary at a public school in France. I come from a very French family. Both my parents are French, and I have very few links with the US whatsoever. I'm doing the OIB bac. I took maths, physics, and NSC, which I dropped in terminal. I have been admitted to Harvard this year to the class of 2027. And I'm glad to be here to talk with you about it.
I came to EGM in grande section. My mother is Chinese and my father is French, so I've always had that little, bilingual twist that EGM loves, apparently. I've been in the school in a while, and I know EGM quite well now.
My name's Marc. I've been at EJM for a very long time. I entered in kindergarten. I lived in New York for 2 years, 6e, 5e, so I wasn't there for 2 years. Then I came back. I just moved to London about 2.5 years ago now, so it's been quite a while. I just went to the alumni event. It was pretty cool to come back to school.
I came to EGM when I was 12 years old, so I was in 6e. I came into adaptation, the class adaptation. And I've always lived in Spain before. I was born in Barcelona, lived in Madrid, and then I moved here for my dad's work.
So I'm from China. I grew up in Beijing. And when I was 10 years old, I came here to Paris, France with my parents. And I've been studying at our school, EJM, ever since. And when I was in second, I took the OIB program. So I think by now you call it the BFI. And my special subjects were math, physics, chimie, and SES. And in terminal, I kept math and physics, chimie.
So I came to EJM in 6e class without speaking English. I'm fully French. So it was a bit complicated in the beginning, but I graduated last year and I'm basically bilingual today, so.
My name is Sascha. I grew up in New York City. I'm half American, half Russian. And I moved to Paris when I was 16. And I did my last 3 years of high school at UCL, where I did the International Baccalaureate. And I decided to come here to École Polytechnique, where I'm doing the Bachelor of Science, which is a 3-year double major program where you take math in all three majors and one of either physics, economics, or computer science. And the first year you take all three majors with the option to specialize a little bit in the second semester. And then the next years you specialize in one of the two majors. And then the third year you also have an exchange program where you get to go abroad potentially. Yeah, that's kind of a very brief overview of myself.
Thank you for this introduction. Could you also introduce the program that you're doing in Sciences Po, which was created in 1999 and is becoming more and more popular to this day, and maybe what you're studying, you know, the 6 main disciplines, and if you get to choose what you study?
Yeah, so Sciences Po's bachelor program is a 3-year-long bachelor, 2 of which happen in France. The first 2 years happen in France on whatever campus you're on, that have geographic specializations. So in Reims, there is the Europe and North America program and the Europe Africa program, and I'm in the Europe North America program. And then my 3rd year will be abroad. And so yeah, in the first year, like you said, we study kind of these core disciplines of social sciences. So first semester has been history, economics, and constitutional law. And now we're starting into sociology and political science. And so generally we study all of these like broad social sciences to get a foundation, and then in the second year we pick what we actually want to study, and we pick a major, of which there are 3. We get to pick either economics and society, which is like sociology as well, or something more like tangible that's like politics and government, or political humanities. So that's more law and more theoretical, so yeah.
Okay, do you have an idea of what you want to choose?
I think I'd like to have a part of research and not just be about the like pure medicine and patients, because I think it's really important, and it's like it helps you also like widen your perspectives on things. So yeah, and it's really rich studies to be able to do that. Like it's a really nice opportunity, and there's not a lot of jobs where you actually get to really like handle the way you want to work and the way you want to like practice.
Again, I really want to let myself explore. I know I want to do some computer science, perhaps some artificial intelligence, etc. Obviously keep this scientific approach and this scientific side, but again, I want to explore. Perhaps I'll do some sociology, perhaps some psychology. I really don't know. I'll see.
Were you only considering to do Prépa, or did you also maybe applied for like bachelor programs, or maybe in other countries also?
Well, I mean, I spent most of my terminal year without thinking I'd ever do a Prépa. I mean, I didn't really like the idea of doing a Prépa because I only saw like the working part. I thought it was gonna be horrible, and I was going to work a lot and like maybe kill myself by working, but actually it's like really great, and so in terminal I considered going to Sciences Po, but I didn't get in, and I applied in the UK, I think, and I got in the University of Edinburgh in philosophy and politics. So yeah, I mean, if you had told me in the beginning of the terminal year that I was going to go to a Prépa and Henri IV,
what are the best? Yeah, the best.
I would not have believed you.
In terms of workload, it's definitely like very big, and it's a lot of studying, and like you said, regular. You can't just like not study for 1 week. Like you don't have the choice. And so I've heard students who are in Prépa that they don't really have time for like personal life, you know, like dating, parties, or even like hobbies. Like if you do activities, like do you think it's possible to combine studies in Prépa and do like your activities, music or sports?
Well, from my personal experience, yes, I think it is possible. Because I think if you really want to have some time for yourself, you can get some time for yourself. And it's just like a matter of organization. Most people I know obviously kind of let down sports, then like kind of stopped doing sports. For me, it was really essential because like, you know, like it's really important for me personally, like for my mental health, to do some sports. Obviously, I didn't do as much as before, but I still had time to do like 2 or 3 hours of sports a week, which was really good for Prépa.
and I did this regularly for the 2 years.
What are the other places you could study medicine in?
So in France, there's a lot of medical schools. So the best overall at the national exams are the ones that are in Paris. So in Paris, inside of Paris, there's two main ones. There's Université Cité and Sorbonne Université. So Sorbonne Université is Paris 6. And Université Cité is the fusion of Paris Descartes and Paris Diderot. So the good thing with this university is that there's a lot of spots because they merged two universities, so there's twice as much spots for Médecine, a lot of hospital options all around Paris, and so I think it's really good. There's a lot of very interesting hospitals.
You're finishing this year your undergraduate studies, and you're thinking of obviously continuing where you're going to study for masters. So what are your plans? What do you want to do after
All right.
this?
So I really liked war studies, and so I was like, I'm gonna continue in this vein, and so I'm applying to masters basically around security studies, and international security. So I applied to Sciences Po, didn't get in, but it is pretty hard to get into, and so I decided to apply to other hard to get in stuff. So I applied to Oxford yesterday. I applied to Cambridge. I'm gonna apply to stuff in Brussels, stuff in the Netherlands, maybe stuff in France, but the deadlines for those are a bit later, and I have a lot of work in 30 years. So, but basically what I'm trying to do, it's work in international security, maybe work in diplomacy afterwards, maybe work as a security analyst in a think tank, maybe work for, the UN, NATO, OSCE, these kinds of organizations. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities that it leads to. I have friends who do war studies that want to work in journalism, become, a war correspondent, which is pretty cool. I could, if I wanted to, but I don't. But if I could just join the army as an officer, I could do that because war studies teaches you a lot about it. So it leads to so many different things. But international security, that's what I'm focused on.
And if you could tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would you say?
Be less anxious, be more confident. I think that's the point of this podcast. But
if you want to get into Harvard, apply. It's the best thing you can do. And again, be genuine, be confident. If you want to contact me, don't hesitate. I'll be happy to give you more advice if I can.
I would say that this is really interesting, that you have to seize every opportunity you get when you're in internships and things like that. That it's really nice studies, that you just have to keep going, and that also your grades are not that important. So your grades in première and terminale, I was a pretty average student. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good. But I worked a lot during my first year and I got in. So keep in mind that it's not because you're not top of your class that you won't manage to do medicine. I'd say it's the most important part.
If you are doing war studies, the professors are excellent and they love to talk to students, so office hours are the way to go. That's what I tell everyone who's first year war studies. And you want to get good grades on your essays, talk to teachers, and it makes everything so much more interesting and so much easier.
I don't know if this sounds too pessimistic, but I would tell my younger self, don't expect that much. Don't get your hopes up since the beginning, because especially if you're a student who has really good grades, who has really good activities, it's really easy to think, of course I can get into Harvard, of course I can get into Princeton. There's no doubt about that, because that is not true. These schools are very selective, and the reasons that they would take a student or reject a student, you can never be sure about them, because there can always be a donation, a legacy, an athlete, somebody they just wanted to take because of some special thing they wrote on their essay. So it's really not your fault if you get rejected, and that's what happens to most applicants. So I would say to the younger applicants now, or even to myself in the past, just make sure that you have that you're prepared for the worst, even if you do your best.
Well, thank you very much, Alexandra, for sharing your experience with us and doing this interview with me. Congratulations on your acceptance to Harvard. And I just want to let you know I'm going to come out of this interview super motivated, inspired, and definitely less anxious. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in your studies, in your continuation. Thank you, Sascha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in on this episode of the Anxious Scholar podcast. See you in 2 weeks for the next interview, and don't miss out on any additional information on our Instagram @The Anxious Scholar.